Hey, how you doing? Today, with a beer, I thought we would talk about why I can never find pictures of my great grandparents when they were young. Like, say, when they were 12, 15, 17. No, can't seem to find them. You have to figure they don't exist. My great grandparents were born in the 1880s. Well, photographs weren't that common then. In fact, I think you pretty much had to go to a studio and pay a professional photographer to get a photograph. It's not like people just carried cameras around with them at that point. So I can't find them. They're just, to tell you the truth, there's so few of them that I have maybe two photographs of my great grandparents when they were already like in their 50s and 60s, and only two of those. You know, and I'm kind of into genealogy and stuff, and in good contact with all of my cousins and the aunts and uncles and everybody. And altogether, there may be two photographs. So, it was uncommon to get photographs. And like I said, they would have to go to a studio. Well, now you're talking about the expense also. Because, my great grandparents, when they started out, were like farmers. They were just sort of scraping by on some farmland and stuff. It's not like, they were rich people that lived in New York City or something. So they weren't going to take money that they needed for food to go and get photographs. People just didn't really do that too much. Well, they certainly didn't in my family. And back then, back in the 80s, especially 1880s, don't get that confused with the 1980s. You're talking about large box cameras and stuff, that are in studios that at different points were using like metal plates or glass plates. It wasn't like film today. And that far back in time, people were using like mercury vapor and strange chemicals and stuff to develop some of this stuff, which is a short lived career as a photographer because, mercury is hazardous. Over time, it'll kill you. So, by the 20s, photography, I think, became a little more common. Certainly by the 40s. You know, with the technology and the world wars and everything else, and production, materials, all of that became a lot more common then. It's surprising when I think of how long ago Kodak started in business. Because actually Kodak around 1900 started making a small cardboard box camera that was selling for like $1. Well, $1 back in 1900 was way more money than you think of it today. And that is what the camera was selling for. So you still had the cost of film and developing and all of that. So it wasn't really till just before the 40s or during the 40s that I actually started finding a fair amount of pictures that my ancestors were taking. And certainly by the 40s, like after the war and stuff, then it really started to become an increase of pictures available. You know, because Kodak, let's say Kodak started with that first box camera in 1900. Well, that line of those Brownie cameras progressed, of course, through the years, and you can imagine by the 40s, they had roll film and everything else that you could get developed. And at that point, it was quite a bit more affordable, so that you would see, you know, everyday normal people, you know, taking pictures and stuff like that. Now through the 50s, the 60s, and into the 70s, huge. It was like every other technology. It just became leaps and bounds by every year. Then they came out with these cartridge films. So the plastic cartridge kept the film enclosed. So you didn't have to worry about accidentally exposing the whole roll of film or something, because a lot of the film wasn't protected in the beginning. But these cartridges kept it protected. So I remember even in the 70s, I had a 110 cartridge camera. There was a 126 and a 110 that were really popular. Now, the 126 was a bigger cartridge. So, say the ends of the cartridge were like this. The 110 was small compared to that 126 cartridge. Well, if I was going to be able to carry the camera around with me and stuff, I didn't want something as big as the 126, because that meant the camera was bigger too. But that 110 camera that I had was just very thin and only maybe 2 inches across and a couple, 3.5 inches long. Very easy to carry. I could slide that thing into my pocket, coat pocket, anything. Take it with me. Shoot a couple of pictures. You didn't have to worry about the cartridge, because it was contained. I wasn't going to accidentally expose the film to light or something. And it was pretty much fixed focal length. So you didn't adjust the lens or anything on that camera. It was fixed. And it had a little like electronic flash built into the little case. It was easy. It was sort of, at the time, you didn't have to think about taking a picture. In the past, there were settings and stuff. And there were even during the 70s, if you had a different kind of camera, yeah, you could change lenses, do your f-stop stuff, everything else. But to just sort of point and shoot, snapshot camera suited me well, because I wasn't going to mess with something large, number one, because like I said, I wanted to be able to fit it in my pocket, And I wasn't out to become a professional photographer, for a living or something. So that fixed length and everything worked great for me. If I wanted to take a picture of somebody doing something, and I'd look through the viewfinder and I'd go, oh, okay, I should step a little bit closer. Okay, no big deal. Do that. Shoot your picture. Piece of cake. You don't have to mess with any settings or anything else. Now, if you were indoors, yeah, turn the flash on, A lot of the pictures I was taking, though, were like outside at events and different places that I traveled to and stuff like that. And I kept that thing with me, even into the Navy. I still carried that 110 when I was in the Navy. Because it was super easy to use. And like I said, if we were out running around, I would just slip that in my coat pocket or something, not have to worry about it. And if we went somewhere doing something, I would just pull the camera out of my pocket, shoot a couple pictures. Okay, fine. Now, of course, you still had to send them out to get developed and everything. And okay, maybe out of 5 snapshots that I took, maybe 2 turned out really nice. Okay, but by now, the cost was down relatively low. You still had to wait, though. I remember even when I was younger, and my parents would take some pictures once in a while, of the kids and stuff. So you still got to fiddle around waiting. Not like today. I take a picture today on my iPhone, I see it right away. And let me tell you, the pictures are a lot nicer. Well, this gets into the resolution of the camera and stuff too. These iPhones, have 10, 20 megapixel cameras, which is insane. They really do a great job for capturing pictures. But I remember sending the film out. And so when I was a kid, my mom and dad would save up the film, say for 3 months, 4 months, might have 1 or 2 rolls of film laying in the kitchen drawer. And finally they would say, oh, okay, yeah, we got to get those developed. And we would all load in the car and take them over to the local drugstore. Because back then, we always used the drugstore to develop film. It was like one of their side things that they would do. So you go into the drugstore counter and put your film in a little envelope, fill out the whole envelope thing, and then wait for what seemed like an eternity. It might have been 3 or 4 days, they would have your film back from the developer place at the drugstore. Then they would call you, oh, hey, your film's ready to pick up. Okay, fine, go pick up your film. And that's the first time you would see what that was. But like I said, they would let that film lay around for a long time. And it would almost be like, oh, hell, yeah, I remember this. That was 4 months ago when it was summertime and we were out doing something in the snow, or in the summertime. Now it's snowing. It was a whole different story on the time lag between when somebody took a picture and when they actually got it developed. Like I said, it could be seasons have gone by that point. But like I said, I carried that 110 camera around. Yeah, a lot of the years that I was in the Navy, even, and took pictures, overseas and stuff like that. Well, then there's this whole other thing with Kodachrome film. So Kodak started the Kodachrome film really early, and they continued that because it was so great of capturing, really rich colors and stuff like that, because it used an entirely different process of capturing and of developing. In fact, that film, in the beginning, you had to send to Kodak to get it developed. So the film was more expensive because you were paying for sending it back to Kodak to get developed with the price of the film. That's the only place you could get it developed. That's how intense and the process it took to develop that film. But now you're talking about slide projectors. So you would get that film back in the form of slides. And then you would put them in the little carousel of the slide projector and display them on a screen. The same as an 8mm movie screen or something like that. But it was a big thing back then because, neighbors and stuff would even be like, Oh, we got the slides back from this trip we took. Come on over Saturday night, and we'll do the little slide projector thing and sit around and talk about the slides. And, well, there was no internet, there was no Netflix. So a lot of people weren't doing much on a Saturday night. They would just visit the neighbor and, oh, yeah, these slides are nice. And they would make an evening out of it. Everybody would sit around having a coffee or a beer or whatever and watching these slides with some snacks and stuff. And whoever was hosting this thing would be talking about the slides. Oh, we were here and this is what was going on. Be like a little narrated story. But that film, that Kodachrome film, is what Paul Simon was talking about in his sort of famous song where he's saying, don't take his Kodachrome away. Because ultimately, they got rid of it. It got replaced by different methods, and especially digital photography and stuff like that. And I don't think they even sell that Kodachrome film today. I think it might have went out in like 2009 or something like that. But it is a good song that he wrote about it. Well, that's the end of that beer. So until the next time, take care of yourself, and I'll see you later.